Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio. And today I want to talk to you about something. AI is becoming increasingly capable of answering our questions, solving problems, supporting decision making. But what happens when the answer is technically correct, yet it completely misses what the person actually needs? In a recent article for research role, Manuel Garcia-Garcia explores the gap between information and an understanding, arguing that the context, empathy, and the human judgment remain essential in this AI-powered world. So I invited Manuel to discuss this and discuss why being right isn't always enough, what the researchers can learn from this challenge, but also how the whole insights industry can balance this technological progress with human understanding. As always, I hope you learned something new from this conversation and that you start seeing the tools that you're already using potentially with a different set of eyes. So without further ado, here's Manuel. All right. Manuel, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time, for being here with us. And thanks for your article. I already read the article. A bunch of people are reading the article now. And I want to kind of start with that because it's all about the AI, this kind of missing human reality. It touches on, AI is not just the full new shining star. There's still this human bit. I want to start by asking, what inspired you to write this and to delve into this topic?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Antonio. It's always wonderful to do things within the SMR community. And yes, indeed. So you might remember November 2022 when OpenAI famously launched ChatGPT, and we haven't stopped talking about AI ever since. But the thing is that we've been focusing a lot on the technical aspects of artificial intelligence, and we've been missing the fact that we humans are using it, and that it's a tool that needs to work with us and basically to make our lives better. So back then, what happens that we saw that this angle was missing, and actually was an angle that's very important, and that now it's being more talked about, and that all the focus was put on accuracy, which is important, on speed, which is important, on making things smooth and rather frictionless, which depending on the task is a mistake. And we thought it was a conversation that was important to have. So I partnered with two friends, with Michael Joffrey, who's a global technology marketer at Google, and Mike Clark, who's the senior product director at Shopify. And they both have a course on AI and psychology at New York University. And I developed and delivered a course in consumer neuroscience for many years. So we thought we could do a great partnership here and bring this angle of how actually we think and feel and make decisions and operate ultimately with AI, because we see that a lot, like in our daily life, when AI is like technically correct, but it's not really working for us. And this an example that I think that I started the article with, and we have like many examples like throughout the book, that is about the this assistant from the UK government for like public things like benefits, visas, and whatnot. It has been optimized throughout many pilots for accuracy, and accuracy is very high, but was still leaving people frustrated because it was missing very important points, like showing some empathy for these very stressful events that people are going to, throwing some guidance, and ultimately thinking with the people. And I think after that was realized, and that's being optimized for that. So this conversation wasn't happening. We were recently at South by Southwest delivering a workshop, and I started hearing a lot of clients on stage talking about like introducing frictions in the user experience of AI systems, considering elements like trust, even talking about like emotion, and can a bot kind of like perceive the emotion of the user and try to show some simulated empathy tuning for cultural appropriateness, like adapting to the culture. And I started hearing this conversation. So I think the book is very timely. It's coming out in 2 weeks on June 18th. And of course, the
Okay.
title is Order Together, How We Think, Feel, and Decide with AI. And everyone can just find it on Amazon because it'll be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, And we'll leave the link in the description of this show, so anyone that's listening to this and wants to know more about the book, they can just go on the description. I wanna, but to what you're saying, it's very interesting because it's also for me, it's not just the people, but also the organizations. I do feel like sometimes the organizations become too reliant on AI and just see that as like the next big thing, the next star, shining star, and it's going to be like the god of all. Do you think that the organizations are becoming too reliant on this, especially for like big decisions?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest risk, cognitive overloading, to try to replace our decisions to be made by a machine. Because like naturally, we tend to outsource cognitive effort if we can. Like you have a calculator, you're not gonna do the calculations in your mind. If you have a GPS, I think I don't remember the last time I drove
Yeah.
without Google Maps, and then so obviously, it's a very high risk that if there's a machine making decisions for us, then we will let it make. And I think that's the biggest risk, and that's something that should be intentionally designed in the system to for the machine not to make the decision for the organizations and to design the workflows within the organization. So there's always a human in the loop, especially for decisions that are more high stakes. And I do think some organizations are making a bit of a mistake on trying to replace people and decisions with machines that should not be. But it's like it's not easy. It's not because what decisions can you automate and what decisions you need to have a human there. But I think the mindset has been like it's being wrong, and I think it's kind of being shifted on using AI for automation when we need to be using AI for augmentation. So with the people we have and with the workflows we have, how do we augment these and we get more done with maybe it's kind of like the same amount of people but avoiding avoiding like forcing that type of replacement. But yeah, as I said, it's tricky because for instance, like an example, there are like many examples around healthcare in the book, and it's something that we mention often because it's AI is making a great impact in also in healthcare. If you think of a doctor using a diagnostic tool, if the doctor completely neglects the diagnostic tool, then the AI is not being useful. But if it totally relies on the AI diagnostic tool, then obviously there's a very high risk because it's going to be less accurate up to some point. And all these systems need to be designed in a way that it's like augmenting the capacity of decision making without completely replacing it, and that needs to be intentionally designed into that. So that that's something that we talk about a lot in the book, and I feel like a lot of the conversation is shifting towards that to start thinking of AI as a tool for replacement, a tool for like complete automation, that like to make us smarter, to make us smarter together. That's
Yeah.
the whole title of the book.
What you said about the GPS, I was thinking about it because it makes total sense with this. It's such a nice metaphor. Like, I don't know, like a few years ago, we still used maps and we were driving and we had to like kind of stop over and see if we're in the correct lane, roads, whatever it was. And then we had to like continue going a bit, or and had someone there with the map and saying like, okay, now you need to turn left or right or whatever. And then they invented the GPS and Google Maps and everything. And now everyone kind of blindly relies on that technology to just drive. And
Yeah.
even a few days ago, I was reading like this article, this news story about this person that just drove into like the train tracks because she was just blindly following the GPS, and then it was like, now turn right, and then the person just turned right. And I feel like we're not really like when you're driving, you need to keep attention on like the changes of the roads. Like now there's construction on this road, even though that the map tells me or the GPS tells me like you need to turn here, but I can't. What's the alternative? Is that something that we should also kind of do with AI? Because I feel like, even if AI tells you to jump, like maybe you should look at where you're jumping first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because our brain is evolved to automate, to create habits, and then be making decisions without having to recruit a lot of energy. Because our brain uses a lot of energy. So if we can like do something using less energy, then we're gonna do that. That's what we tend to do as humans. That's part of our evolution and what makes us very very efficient. And it's exactly like the example of the GPS. If you can complete your task without having to think, then you're going to tend to do that. So you need to intentionally bring the human attention in. when needed, and exactly the same with AI when it comes to making decisions. So I think most important, if we can, because our tendency is going to be to like automate our thinking. So if we can intentionally design that into the workflows, intentionally design that into the AI systems, so that it will call the human when needed, bring the attention in. So and that brings a lot of benefits. So one, the human has a say, which the human appreciates. Then the
Yeah.
human's going to trust the system more if the human feels like it has some agency there. And third, the system learns from those human decisions, and then in the future it will make decisions better. But that needs to be intentionally designed in the workflows and intentionally designed in the systems, because if not, our tendency will be, without thinking, to think less. That's just how we operate. I just think in
Yeah.
the only time I think in my life that I've used a map for driving was in Cuba, because there's no alternative, and it was a very interesting experience.
I agree. Like, I mean, I was in the Boy Scouts when I was younger and we used maps for everything. And then recently I looked into it again. Like, and the kids nowadays they just use like the GPS to walk, even to like walk on the streets and everything. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, it's an evolution of things. I mean, that's why I guess like we are starting to see like the self-driving cars and like the
Uh-huh.
like the Ubers of things and everything.
The Waymo,
But
the Zooks.
yeah, exactly. I think like eventually we'll see like AI, turning into those things potentially. I just think maybe it's not that fast as people are expecting. It's not like you snap your fingers and next month it's done. I wanna come back to the research part of it and then to
Mhm.
the research industry and in the research perspective. What are some of the risks or the biggest risks on people trusting so much on these AI outputs and don't questioning the nuance behind all of it?
I think you're touching something very important that we've been talking a lot about at Ipsos this year. In North America, which is trust, because trust in AI is very paradoxical and very different from everything that we've learned in the past like 15 years around our relationship with digital products. Now it's completely different. So the fact that we're using AI systems in a very human-like way, that we talk to these systems in our language, and we say please, and we say thank you, and that makes us trust this like a human, but kind of faster, and that's because of a principle in psychology, that's perceptual fluency, that when something is perceived or presents itself as coherent, very confident, we're going to perceive it as more intelligent. So then we're trusting the systems very, very quickly, which is risky because they make mistakes. So if they were to not make mistakes, then it's great, because it's at a brain level, at a neuroscientific level, you see the reward system of the brain being activated. So then you get a habit of trusting these things. And trust is also an evolutionary phenomenon, because then we can, follow something and make decisions without having to think. So it goes back to the same principle. And even you see oxytocin, like there are social bonds being built in our relationship with our chats and our chatbot. But the truth is that most times they fail, and because they're not infallible. They're not 100%
Yes.
accurate. And that's another risk, because one fail is not the trust erodes, it's the trust completely collapses. That's what's called algorithm aversion. And once we get to that, then it kind of becomes useless, because then you don't trust it. So you're going to stop using it. And we've actually seen like this year adoption slowing down. I think that's also because this is not being intentionally designed for to take care of this paradoxical level of trust, that we trust it very fast, but then we break trust very fast. That we need to intentionally design these workflows and interact in a way for calibrated trust, and that's very complicated. That's very unique and very new. So I guess we're learning as we go, but it's critical for adoption, for those developing tools, but also for all of us in research that use the tools. So for the tools to be useful, we need to know how to use them, and also be able to trust them.
Yeah. Do you see that the professionals working in insights and researchers and everyone in this field are not starting to trust more, but start to learn how to use the tools better? And do you see that AI will change some of these roles in the future?
I think a lot has been in the conversations that I've been having on the workshop. A lot has been learned through trial and error, but also because we are researchers, so we kind of like have to use them, and if not,
Yeah.
we're gonna stay behind. But I feel like people are like even kind of training their systems themselves, like the chats, because they've learned some of the things with practice. But like that could be designed in the system or in the workflow already intentionally, and avoid the researchers to have to like find out by themselves and train it themselves. And I'm sure like that came up in some conversations of people who are very interested and therefore wanna like do the workshops that we do on the topic, but there might be a lot of people out there who might not be realizing this, and then they will desist and stop and use AI less, and then probably stay behind or use it wrong and trust it too much and make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, and in different parts of the world, like I guess like the way that you use it or see it or the access that you have to it, it's I mean the access it's kind of equal to everyone, but then the way that you perceive it or see it, it's different.
Very
You've
different. We
been
have
go
I think
sorry,
this
sorry.
week is the Ipsos AI monitor is coming out when we have, I don't know how many countries, 30 countries, how AI is perceived in different parts of the world. What's been seen consistently these few years is that generally collectivist societies are more open to AI, and more individualistic societies like Western are more skeptical also around data privacy. But
Yeah.
that makes a big difference. That actually gives a big advantage to East Asia and so on, because consumers are a lot more open than they are like here in North America or there in Europe. But
That's
that
very
that needs to be accounted for when you are marketing AI tools, when you're developing AI tools, that it doesn't land in a vacuum. It lands in a place that has a culture and that has its own perceptions around AI.
yeah. That's very interesting. You've been with SMR or in the SMR sphere, stratosphere, whatever you want to call it, for quite a while. Like you've been in our events, you've been doing a bunch of things with us. Like it's one of their names that we always like to welcome you back because you have like a lot of expertise in the insights and research. I want to ask you, how do you see like looking ahead? I know that you don't have like a crystal ball, but how do you see like the community, the global community around insights and research, and what do you feel like most optimistic about it?
I tend to be optimistic. Generally, and I am actually very optimistic because I feel like researchers are gonna, we'll be automating things that are probably more boring, and then focus our strength in what's important, and probably spend less time collecting answers and more time designing the right questions. I think like part of the process is being automated, that will be automated, and the parts that are like very unique of the research, which is understanding the human, understanding how emotion, cognition, and culture influence AI will remain there. And the big focus on our work will remain to be which is understanding the human. So the tools are changing, but the mission is the same. That's understanding people, understanding the consumer, as we frame it at Ipsos, understanding society's markets and people. And the emphasis, and I say that when I lecture at some universities, and people who are gonna work on consumer research and that focus a lot on behavioral science, is that all this part of human understanding, behavioral science, neuroscience is becoming more important, because that's the part that's unique to the human and to the researcher that AI cannot do. So I don't think these aspects of our profession is replaceable at all. It will be other parts of our profession that can be automated.
Yeah. I have one final question. We have people listening that range from like the C-level suites to the young researchers just coming out from university. They all have a point and they all have something to learn. If you had one advice for all of them, what would that be?
I think today read our book, because I think it's important to start thinking about AI in the angle of how people think and feel and make decisions with it. So you can apply, like the whole goal is like to apply all this thinking in the workflows and in the tools that we design around AI, to make our lives better, to make the most out of it, and make our profession and our output better. So just learn how to think, feel, and decide with AI, and apply it to your daily job.
There you go. Well, Manuel, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on the book. Again, the link will be in the description for anyone that wants to know more about it and buy it and read it. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see you in Valencia.
Thanks for having me, Antonio. I'll see you in Valencia.
Thank you. And that's all for today, folks. Talking Insights is a production of Research World and SMR, bringing you the stories, voices, and ideas shaping the insights community around the world. If you'd like to be featured in a future episode, share your story, or learn more about sponsoring opportunities, send us an email at podcast@smr.org. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And join us next week for another great conversation. See ya.